Hey guys, how's it going? It's Talomic here with DNB Academy, and today I'm going to take a look at how I approach arrangement within drum and bass. So this that I'm about to show you can be done at any stage in the process, whether you are about to start an idea, or you've got like a 16 bar loop and you're a bit stuck with it, or you've got a full arrangement but something doesn't quite sit. You're like, a section's not working, or it doesn't feel like it flows properly, or whatever. I find it really helps me to stop getting stuck in like 16 bar loops. But as I said, whenever suits you. So I've got a couple of tunes here that we'll use as examples. The first one I'll use is my tune Gravity Within, which came out on Liquidity 2020, I think. And then this tune from my album, which was also on Liquidity, called Lesson Learned. But the tune themselves doesn't really matter. And then I've got a blank MIDI track at the top. So we're just going to name this structure. And we're just going to be using blank MIDI channel. So this is a MIDI channel, but it doesn't matter. We don't need anything on it. We don't need any effects. You can do this in whatever you want. We'll just minimize that for now. So I'm just going to create a blank MIDI clip, 16 bars. Sometimes you might find that not every tune fits perfectly within 16 bar segments, but generally speaking, that will work. And if it doesn't, you can obviously add like additional little bits as well. So I'll do blocks for the entirety of the tune. And we'll just go through now and listen to each segment within the tune. I won't play the whole thing because obviously like it's a 5-minute tune, but I'll play the start of each section and we can then dictate what that section is called. We then map that out on this grid at the top, and then we have an outline that we can then use for our own tunes. Because we're working within dance music, arrangements tend to be reasonably formulaic. Even if you're wanting to break out of that formula, you need to have an idea of what the formula is before you're breaking out of it. And so, this can be helpful even if you're trying to do the most experimental of experimental music. The other thing is, like, for DJs and everything else, drum and bass is club music essentially. Even if you're talking about sort of deeper liquid, it's still club music. And so having an arrangement that fits and is familiar allows DJs to more easily mix the music that you're working on. So, and we all need that DJ support. So let's get started. So listen to this section, we'll just skim through. So we can hear that that's an intro there. Go to the next section. So that's a verse. Sometimes you might need to listen in more detail. Obviously I wrote these tunes and so I know what the sections are, but I'm kind of going through for the benefit of you guys and also to refresh myself slightly. So this could be like a kind of verse 2 in a sense, but I'll refer to it as a build because it does kind of lift into the drop. So drop A. I'm going to call this drop A because drops usually have distinct sections within them. And if I'm trying to come up with or break out of loops and come up with more interesting arrangements, having one 64 bar long section called drop isn't very helpful. If I can see that the drop is broken up into more distinct sections, then as I'm writing, that is easier for me to then work with. So again, we can hear that this section of the drop here doesn't have the lead, it's a little bit more subdued. We've got that art coming in, so drop B. Drop C, as that section is different to the previous two. And again, drop A is ever so slightly different, so I'll put drop A2. As it is essentially a repeat of that, we've got most of the same elements, but there's a few changes there. Call that break. I realised the confusion in using the term break in a genre of dance music that is predominantly built around drum breaks, but by break here I mean breakdown essentially.
take me.
Recognize that from before. That's a verse. That is a build. And again, just to check that the structure follows what it did before. So we can hear that that's drop A2. And that is a sort of drop B with a variation. And there we go. And so now I could, you know, ignoring this bottom tune here, we could delete that. We've got the outline of the structure that I can then work with and build my tune around, just sitting at the top. Blank MIDI clips, you know, you can even save these and like export them to different projects and everything else as well. But there you go. We'll just very quickly do it for a second tune just so you get the idea. But cool. So we've got this second tune. This is a slightly harder one here. Harder is in heavier, not harder is in more complicated. So intro. We've got build. Let me just lay out all the clips actually rather than. Nice. So drop A. Obviously I'm not as explaining as much this time around, but drop B. Drop C. Yeah, drop A2. You could call that drop D as well, if you were going through like each section and you wanted to have them more distinct. But if I'm calling it drop A2, same as before, I know that there's callback to stuff we've had earlier on. Again, breakdown. Build. I'm going to label it as build 2 because it is distinct from that previous one. You can hear that there's like obvious differences. The vocal is different, the drum build is different. So we'll call this drop A variation. So you can hear we've got some of those. So again, this will be drop B variation because they are distinctly different from those previous ones. In the other one where it was more vocal driven, more song like, the drops tend to be a little bit more similar just because you want those callback to those vocals. Well, we've got something like this where it's harder and it's more sound design kind of driven. Drop A vary kind of works better. Essentially, you can name these sections however you want to name them. It's what makes sense to you. But that I would say is basically the same. And we'll call that because they are basically the same as well. So there you go. You know, and again, delete that. And I've now got this arrangement laid out as a kind of baseline for where I can then take the tune. And I don't always follow this really strictly. I might find myself extending sections, so I'd think, oh, okay, actually, my build should be longer, or I want to have some kind of verse section or whatever. You can move it all around. It's like a guide for when I'm getting stuck. The same as I've spoken about in other videos where I'm writing bass lines and I'm thinking about implied chords and majors and minors and everything else. Ultimately, you have to use your ear. And if it sounds good, it is good. If it doesn't, it isn't. But when you're approaching that, having these guides helps to sort of, if you're getting stuck or you're not sure where to go next, you've got some kind of accountability, I guess, for something you can fall back on. But yeah, hopefully that helped. Any questions, let us know, and I'll see you in the next one.